This is Raymond van Barneveld, and you listen to Dartistry.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, wherever you are in the world listening to, oh my word, it's episode 24 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. A warm welcome along to all of you, and in the words of Fabrizio Romano, here we go. Before we crack on, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce you to the team. This is a full Josh's Dartistry podcast show. However, we are communicating via Skype this evening. Let's introduce you to the main man, Mr. Josh Gorton. How are you, Josh?
I'm very well, thank you, John. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. Nice to see you. And also joining us this evening, he's been very busy this evening. Josh, you and I have had to sort of sit online and wait for him to finish his day job for him to come and join us. It's Statsman Neil Connor. Good evening, Neil.
Hello, John. How are you? I'm all right,
mate. I'm all right. Yeah, all good. Anyway, listen, lovely to have you both with me. Episode 24. It's been a long time coming, Josh. We've not had any content for over a month now, but there's been plenty going on in the darts world, isn't there?
Yeah, plenty of talking points, plenty of tournaments now. We're back in the swing of things after the sort of summer hiatus, and some quite big stories to catch up on, I think it's fair to say, John.
Absolutely. Before we kick off, we always like to have a little chat at the start, guys, regarding our football teams, don't we? Arsenal shaping up, Neil, as far as I'm concerned, to be champions-elect the way they've started.
I think so. I think the signs are there that there's massive improvement, massive investment, and I expect them to win at least 2 trophies this season.
Josh, they're throwing the cash around like confetti.
2 million net spend, John, but in Neil's comments about 2 trophies, we've already got one under our belt, the Community Shield, so we might be able to get another one. You never know.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one team that signed a genuine world-class player this summer with 4 Champions Leagues under his belt. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Gareth Bale. What a signing for my guys, Tottenham. And Daniel Levy, Neil finally pulling his finger out and signing us some players, getting the old checkbook out for a change.
I think he's getting a bit desperate, to be honest, because he has well and truly changed his strategy. And you could see under Pochettino, they had a strategy. They would buy young players that had a sell-on value. But had massive potential. Now it's changed. I think they're trying to sell the club personally, and they're trying to get the value up as quickly as they can. Hence the recklessness of the use of the checkbook.
Okay, well there you go. We'll keep our eyes on that. Talking of older, experienced players, I think we should probably kick the show off with a bit of this. That's right, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It is the return of Raymond van Barneveld. Now, regular listeners will know Josh is a huge Raymond van Barneveld fan. Always has been, always will be. Josh, you must have been absolutely delighted when the news came through.
I was a little bit shocked as well, I've got to be honest, John. I didn't see it coming at all. It kind of came out of nowhere, but it's exciting news. Of course, he has to go to qualifying school and get a tour card, which is far from a certainty given the array of talent on the tour now, and it's so competitive. We saw Glenn Durrant a couple of years ago almost miss out on one, and look at what he's doing now in the PDC. So there's no certainty he'll get a tour card, but it's exciting news for a lot of darts fans, and it would be good to see Barney back on the tour if he can make it.
Okay, we'll have a extended chat about Barney in just a while. Josh, you said there's been lots of darts going on. World Series finals probably at the top of the tree at the moment.
Yeah, took place in Austria last week, and it was a welcome return for fans. We had socially distanced, of course, but there were fans back in attendance at a darts event for the first time since March. That was really good to see.
We'll obviously we'll have a chat about that competition. The winner, obviously, everyone probably knows it was Price, and we'll have a chat about Price's route to the final and how we played. But we've also had the autumn series taking place, haven't we, Josh?
Yeah, that took place in Germany a couple of weeks ago now. Really, really competitive. The cream rose to the top, so to speak. So we'll be focusing on that. And also, we've got an interview with one of the winners from the autumn series later on.
Excellent stuff. Look forward to that. Josh, I know that you've put on the agenda that you want to have a quick discussion with Neil and myself. It just says Michael van Gerwen's form. Discuss.
Well, I think it's a massive talking point. I mean, Michael, he had a decent autumn series, but has been well documented. The Premier League didn't go to plan for him. The recent World Series, the finals didn't. And quite an interesting point now. He could potentially face a prospect of becoming world number 2 after the World Championship. Him and Peter Wright, when you take off the money they're defending for the rest of the year, it could be really close.
Okay, we'll also have a chat, Josh, about the Premier League. We haven't yet come to a conclusion. Finals night obviously due to take place on October the 22nd, but we did have an absolute thrust of Premier League action in consecutive days, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I really enjoyed it, to be fair. I think sometimes the Premier League is such a long competition that it can sometimes lose a bit of momentum, but having the consecutive nights, I think it made it more of a tournament feel, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, plenty to catch up on there. Okay,
once we've discussed all that's been going on in the darting world, we'll probably throw it over to you, Neil, and get some odds. Hopefully you'll be able to get online and tell us what the bookies are offering at the moment, Neil.
Yep, big tournaments on the way, and I'll be bringing you the latest odds for those.
Excellent stuff. Josh, as you mentioned there, you managed to grab an interview with one of the winners of the autumn series. I think he was he night 2 or event 2
yeah.
He won. You managed to catch up with Damon Heta.
Yeah, Damon in great spirits, having just won his first ranking title. He's had a decent year since earning his tour card, and it was really interesting to listen with Damon.
Okay, good. We look forward to that. Once we've had a chat with Damon, Neil, we're going to bring it all the way back to Challenge Josh. Hopefully you've got something exciting lined up for us this evening.
Well, you know I've got something lined up and something exciting as you wrote it for me, because I was a little bit under the cosh today, so thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And I'm sure you've taken just as much relish as I do in trying to put the heat on him.
Well, it's been a while since I've written a challenge, Josh, and obviously there's quite high standards been set in the past by your good self, so hopefully I've done you proud, and we can look forward to watching Josh squirm, I think is the best way to put it. After that, we'll have a little chat about any news items, sort of stuff that may have fallen through the cracks. Josh, we've got quite a lot to discuss there as well, haven't we?
Yeah, a few updates from the PDC this week about the Players' Championship finals and some more European Tour events. Also, a little bit of BDO news about also a player who won't be returning next year, be giving his tour card away.
Okay, and then we will end the show, as usual, with our Q&A section, Josh's Twitter chatter. That said, thanks for downloading the show. Thanks for listening along. Do spread the word to anybody. If you know any darts fans, anyone who's into their podcasts, let them know about the Josh's Dartistry podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. Check out the Josh's Dartistry Facebook page as well. You can also check out Josh's website. It's www.joshisdartistry.com. Josh, much content gone on there recently?
Last week or so there has been. I must admit I've been a bit busy, and I think when there wasn't as many tournaments, it kind of lost a bit of momentum. But I'm getting back on the horse now with the content.
Back on the horse, back on the saddle. And also don't forget you can check us out on all your favourite podcast providers, whether that's Apple Podcasts, on iTunes, of course, Spotify we are on. Android users, you can also check us out on the Stitcher app as well. There's also a YouTube channel. Again, search for Josh's Dartistry on YouTube. There'll always be a video version of the show. Right then, on that basis, episode 24, here we go. You're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, the Josh's Dartistry page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. And you can also go to our website, www.joshisdartistry.com, for all the latest news, blogs and information on the world of darts. Don't forget you can also call us and leave us a message on our voicemail box. That's 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329. Call our voicemail box, leave us a message, leave us a question, and we may play it on the show.
Now back to the show.
This is Raymond van Barneveld, and you listen to George Dartistry.
Right then, Josh, let's get straight into it then. Raymond van Barneveld plans to return, plans to compete at PDC qualifying school in January of next year.
Indeed, John. Yeah, he announced it earlier this week, confirmed the plans with RTL7, the Dutch broadcast station, in an exclusive interview. Surprising news. Some people said they weren't surprised. I was, to be honest, because I know he's talked in the last few months about him missing the professional circuit, but he's not renowned for particularly liking the Pro Tour events in Wigan and Barnsley. He's someone who relishes the big stage and playing in the major tournaments. But if he does win his tour card, he's going to have to go back to the bread and butter of the Pro Tour and work really hard there. But he sounded in a better space mentally. It's been a tough couple of years for him. He's had a lot of private problems, which are well documented. So hopefully it's a good return for him. But hopefully there's a lot of people optimistic about it. There's a few people sceptical, and I can understand both sides really.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the scepticism goes, listen, I'm happy. I think Barney's a name and a character on the floor. But Neil, I can't help but wonder what this decision has been based on. Barney said that he's used to being a winner. He can no longer compete at that level, and it hurts him to not be able to win these tournaments. What makes him think that he can come back after playing so poorly as he did unfortunately at the end of his career? What makes him think he can come back, get his card back and start performing again at the very highest level?
Difficult to say, but maybe a period of rest and recuperation. Maybe he needed some time off to sort of recover the hunger. I think when you're playing Pro Tour, European Tour, and the majors week after week, I think it can become a bit tiring. It looks like he's going to put himself back in that situation again. But maybe the months that he's had off has made him realise that and it's given him time to ponder and recover the hunger. Because if your heart's not in it, then you're not going to perform to the best of your ability. If your heart is in it and you've got that natural ability that he has, then you never know. You never know. I think it'll be difficult. But as Josh said, mentally, he seems in a better place, and we'll see how he goes.
Josh, I'm going to ask the question that maybe other podcasts might dare not ask. Is it financial?
Well, I mean, I don't know his financial situation. They RTL7 asked him outright, was it a financial decision? And he said it wasn't at all. He said he misses it terribly and he wants to get back. And I think these months away from the sport has made him more hungry. So we have to take him at face value for that. I know the COVID situation this year has curtailed the exhibitions he had planned, but him and Phil Taylor are in great demand on the exhibition circuit. So I'm sure if he was that desperate financially, he would still have the guarantee of those exhibition money. I mean, he could come back to the tour and he's not guaranteed, even if he gets a tour card, to earn much money on the Pro Tour. So I would hope it's not financial. I think if it is, it's a bad decision, but I hope it wouldn't be.
But I think there's so many factors that contribute to the performance of an elite sportsman, and I've always thought with him, he put himself under so much unnecessary pressure that he allowed that to drag him down. Maybe now, with months and months of rest, he can put things more into perspective, and maybe he won't come back and be so hard on himself and have such massive expectations. And in some ways, that might lessen the pressure on him, and you might see him have another good run of tournaments.
But you mentioned there the pressure factor, Neil. I think I agree. I think he did put too much pressure by announcing his retirement early, but you could argue that he's done the same thing here by announcing in advance that he's going to enter a qualifying school. If he'd have just put his name in the entrances the week before, there wouldn't be this sort of fanfare, if you like. But by doing this now, all the eyes and pressure will be on him, and the expectation will be on him. I know John Part, for example, former world champion, he'll be there, but Barney will be the big drawer at Q School this year. All eyes and pressure will be on him. So you could say he's done the same thing again.
Josh, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't think a Josh's Dartistry podcast goes by without us discussing, whether it's us or a question that's coming from a listener, the possibility of Phil Taylor coming back, whether that's, attending Q School or invites to UK Opens and all that kind of stuff. Phil's name is never too far away from our lips, despite the fact he's been out of the very top of the game for so long now. What's the difference? Why can Phil happily stay away for so long, and yet Barney's, he's only been retired for a few months and he's chomping at the bit to come back. What's the difference?
I think if you look at Phil's last year, I know he lost in the World Championship final to Rob Cross, but he still got to the World Final. He won the World Match Play in his last year, his 16th match play. The years before Phil, he actually struggled a little bit. It was his last year, probably his best year for 2 or 3 years. Whereas with Raymond, he was hoping to kind of replicate what Phil did, and he didn't. And he did go down. He did go out on a sour note. I mean, he didn't play awfully against Darren Young, but with all due respect to Darren, losing to a player of his calibre in the first round, it's not the best exit. So maybe he feels he's got unfinished business, whereas Phil was happy with his lot, so to speak.
I think the term unfinished business could be right. Neil, do you see Barney? I don't know how far I want to go with this question. Do you think Barney can win another major?
Why not?
Why not?
As I say, with someone with his ability, it will be about how he is mentally as to how he performs. So as long as he manages his first he gets his card, and then he manages his schedule sensibly. The ability's there. Can he put it all together mentally is the key. So I would not rule it out.
Neil talks there about his mentality. Josh, I don't want to pry too far into Barney's personal life, but I believe he's quite settled down now with a girlfriend that he's been with for quite a while.
I think so. I think he's in a lot happier place. There are a lot of things going on behind the scenes in the last couple of years, which I think did affect his performance. And I think we've known with Barney in the last decade or so, really. He's very harsh on himself. He's very self-critical. And I mean, mentality and the psychological aspect of the game is important for every player, but I think with Barney even more so. I think when his head is right and he believes in himself, there are very few better players in the world. But when things aren't going right, he spoke about when he departed the scene, he said the demons won. The demons in my head won. And now those demons have gone. So if they have, which I hope they have, then I think he's got every chance. But he did seem a lot happier, which is good. He seemed more settled. But I do also wonder whether the fact he's not had the pain of losing, if you know what I mean, for the last 8 months, maybe that has helped. And obviously if he returns, they'll have to get used to that because it will happen.
One of my final memories of Barney's career, just before he hung him up, was obviously not this year because of COVID, but Rotterdam in the previous year, Josh, which you were there, and you were also backstage, and you managed to grab a quick word with Barney. And that interview, there was a lot of confusion going on that night. There was rumours that he chucked it in there, and then that night, in the interview that he did with you, it was very very short. I don't think it was to do with you, Josh. I think I think it was just how he was feeling that night, but quite short, quite snappy, quite to the point, beating himself up, said he can't do it anymore. That was one of the saddest things I've seen on TV and podcasts with the darts and specifically related to Barney's career. It would be really nice if, I don't know about fairy tale endings and winning world championships and majors and things like that, but I don't know, it would be nice to see him go out in a slightly more positive note than he did last time. Yeah,
100%, John. I mean, Rotterdam was kind of billed as his farewell. He was fighting to survive in the Premier League, but they were hoping he would get a great reception, which he awfully did. Yeah, he lost 7-1 both nights to Gurney and Van Gerwen, and it was a manner of the performance as well. He was so below par, and I think on his walk-on against Van Gerwen, he was in tears on his walk-on. So he wasn't in the right space mentally at all. And when I saw him on the walk-on against Van Gerwen, I thought this could end badly, and it did, unfortunately. So, yeah, it would be nice if he could come back, and even if he doesn't win a major, if he can compete at the highest level. And because even in his last year, he still had some good performances. He got to a couple of quarterfinals, got to a World Series final. So, like Neil said, the ability is still there. Mentally, if he's right and he manages his schedule and he believes in himself, if he gets a tour card, of course, and then there's no reason why he can't still be successful.
And the Premier League?
Well, if they still do the
challenges, exactly, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he would be a Rotterdam one, wouldn't he? But I'm not sure whether they're going to do that or not this year. But it's certainly going to be an interesting one. But no chance for a full-time spot. I mean,
okay, we'll remember that.
Yeah, noted.
I mean, there was criticism when he got one in his final year, and he was ranked about 16th or 17th at the time. So imagine what it'd be like if he got one. No, it won't happen.
Okay, you never know. We will see. Listen, we all here on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, but Josh in particular, obviously wish Raymond all the very best with his return to action. And we all look forward to seeing how he gets on in 2021. Josh, let's move it on to some darts action. World Series finals. And as you mentioned earlier, for the first time since March's Premier League, fans were in attendance.
Yeah, indeed. It was held in Salzburg. Obviously, there was no World Series events this year because of the coronavirus, so we just went straight to the World Series finals. No Gary Anderson. He pulled out of the Autumn Series and the World Series finals due to concerns over the over the COVID-19. But Gerwyn Price continued from where he left off at the Autumn Series, picked up his third major televised title. He's won 2 Grand Slams in the past couple of years. It was his first major title outside of Wolverhampton, John.
We'll come on to Price's route to the final in a moment. I remember discussing on the last show with you, Neil, about Gerwyn Price and whether he had to raise his game a little bit more in an empty stadium when there were no fans, because he is the kind of person that likes to interact with the crowd. And no sooner are the fans allowed back into the building, Gerwyn Price victorious, Neil.
Yeah, I think after watching him in the Premier League, I think he was really up and down in terms of how he was performing and how he was reacting to the empty arena that he was playing in and the artificial noise that I think was being pumped in. But I think he is one, and maybe Michael van Gerwen, I think we'll talk about that a bit later, that needs that energy from the crowd to feed off. And as you say, as soon as they're back in, he's won himself another big tournament.
Josh, tell us about Price's route to the final.
He didn't have it easy, John. He beat Vincent van der Voort in the opening round after Vincent had whitewashed Joe Cullen the night before. He beat him 6-3. Good solid performance, over 101 average. Then he had a cracking game against Nathan Aspinall in the quarterfinals. Now, Nathan edged him out to finish in the top 4 of the Premier League, so he got a bit of revenge there. Won 10-9. Nathan at 9-180s, missed the match dart in the last leg. Price won it in a decider. He played Peter Wright in the semi-final. This was an incredible game of darts. Peter Wright averaged 108, 50% on the doubles, 9-180s, lost 11-6. How's that for bad luck for Peter Wright?
Incredible.
Price's average was, I think, 6 points lower, but his timing was just impeccable. At the right moment, he took out the big shots. Really, really professional performance from Gerwyn Price. And that set up a final against Rob Cross. Good return to form for Rob, but we all thought this would be a bit of a procession because in the semi-finals against James Wade, Cross won with an 84 average. He was really, really scrappy game. But in fairness to Cross, he raised his game considerably in the final, had quite a handsome lead. I think he was 8-5 up at one point, but Price came back. Might even be an 8-4, but he came back particularly well. Price won 7 of the last 8 legs to win the title, his third major. So congratulations to Gerwyn Price.
Yeah, many congratulations to Gerwyn Price. He continues to add silverware to his cupboard and build his very impressive CV. Just backpedaling a second, Neil, let's go back to Rob Cross for a moment. After a bit of a torrid time in the Premier League, nice to see Rob making it through to a final.
Yeah, and I think, form is temporary, class is permanent, I think is the expression that comes to mind. He hasn't had a good run for some time, but he managed to get himself together and get on a run to the final. So nice to see him back, and I'm sure he'll be pushing for the big tournaments that remain over the course of the year.
Yeah, and Gerwyn Price there, Josh, he just continues to impress, doesn't he? He's probably hot on the heels now of, as I say, we're going to talk about Van Gerwen in a minute, and Peter Wright himself, he's hot on the heels of those two players, isn't he, certainly? Absolutely.
He's ranked third in the world, but I think there's an argument to say that him and Peter Wright at the moment are the best players in the world, certainly the way they're playing. But so Gerwyn, he's certainly matured, I think, over the last 18 months or so. I think the Premier League, I thought, was a bit of a backward step for him, not in terms of his performances, but his attitude. He was blaming a lot of outside influences for certain games. He moaned about the lack of atmosphere. Then when he lost, he said that the crowd and all that pumping him whistles and boos. So it was a little bit disappointing, I felt, his attitude. But fair play, he's turned it around, had a great autumn series, played brilliantly throughout the World Series finals. He's certainly a man in form, and he said he fancied becoming world champion this year, and who can back against him on current form?
And although it was good, Josh, to see them manage to complete the World Series finals and crown a champion, it is disappointing that we didn't get to have all those events around the world. I'm thinking particularly the stages that were going to be held in places like, in Madison Square Garden and some of the events that were covered. And also, of course, some of the players that missed out, Fallon Sherrock getting an invitation to a couple of the events. And it's a shame we didn't get to see them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always a great experience and opportunity for a lot of the less heralded stars. But I think Fallon will still be competing in the World Series next year when they return to Madison Square Gardens and also down under, hopefully. Fallon herself was at the World Series final. She got a place because obviously she would have been competing in the World Series. Yeah. And she played Jeff Smith, and she was quite unfortunate to lose, really. She was 5-1 up. The break seemed to hinder her momentum a little bit. She missed a few match darts, I think 4 in total, and Jeff came back well and did what he usually does and finishes pretty clinically. So it was a good showing from Fallon, and hopefully she won't be too dispirited, and she's going to get her opportunity again next year at the World Series. She'll also get her opportunity at the Women's Series, which will be held in October. Mm-hmm. The first time the PDC have done so, introducing a Women's Series, which will also give places for the World Championship and potentially the Grand Slam of darts. So great opportunity for Fallon. the likes of Lisa Ashton as well to compete against their fellow women on the PDC circuit.
Yeah, that is something for us all to look forward to. Josh, let's kick it on a little bit then. You just referred to the autumn series. Give us a little roundup on what happened across those events.
So, yeah, 5 days in Germany for the PDC Tour Card holders. And I mentioned earlier, the cream did rise to the top, really. We had the world's top 3 all finished in the top 3 of the overall order of merit. Gerwyn Price had a bit of a late show, won the 4th and 5th events back-to-back. Some terrific performances. I think 104 tournament average on one day. The opening day, we saw the world champion Peter Wright prevail, beating Madars Razma from Latvia. So great run for Madars on the opening day. And Wright in that event came back from, I think it was 5-2 down to beat Van Gerwen in the semis. So great win for Peter Wright. He had a very good summer series also and he's played very well at the World Series finals that we just mentioned. Day 2 saw Damon Heta come through the pack to win the event. He beat Michael van Gerwen en route and defeated Joe Cullen in the final. Joe also had a really good autumn series. And then we saw Michael himself triumph in event 3. So, as I mentioned, Michael van Gerwen didn't have the best of Premier Leagues, but a bit of a consolation for him picking up an event in the autumn series.
Neil, there's some regular names there. Peter Wright winning the opening event and MVG picking one up, Gerwyn Price winning 4 and 5. Nice to see a slightly different name amongst the crowd, though. And I know we're going to have a chat with him a little bit later, but nice to see a different name in Damon Heta claiming event 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a boost for Australian darts. And I think it's very, very timely, really, as we had Damon coming on to talk to us on the show. But yeah, brilliant. Nice to see new names coming through. Big improvement for Damon, the Heat as he's known. And look forward to seeing him have more success in the future.
I think also you mentioned there Damon Heta and the new names, absolutely. And the next man I'm going to mention, he's not a new name. We all know Devon Peterson, part of the Sky Sports commentary team, been on the PDC Tour for a number of years now. But I think he's really gone up a notch over the last 6 to 9 months, Devon. And he came agonisingly close to winning his first PDC ranking title at the Autumn Series. Missed 4 match starts to beat Gerwyn Price. But some of the averages he had over the course of the Autumn Series was superb. So many ton plus averages. He whitewashed Michael van Gerwen on one of the days. I mean, to beat Michael van Gerwen 6-0 is some achievement. And I think the following day after losing the final, we lost to Dimitri van den Berg, the World Match Play champ, but hit a 9-darter in that game. So really good Autumn Series for Devon Peterson. We spoke to Devon on the podcast earlier this year, I think, during lockdown, and he mentioned the work he'd been doing with Wayne Mardle in terms of coaching, working on a few things in terms of his technique, and it's certainly paying dividends for him, and it's great to see, and hopefully he'll carry on going from strength to strength.
Yeah, good. Always nice to see some names coming through rather than just the usual suspects. So that's absolutely fantastic. Let's move it on then. So you mentioned the whitewash there of Michael van Gerwen, Josh, and as we said at the top of the show, we're just going to have a quick chat about his form. The world number 1 not always having it his own way in 2020.
No, certainly not, John. We mentioned that well, I don't think we've recorded since the World Match Play when Michael had a second round loss to Simon Whitlock.
Yeah.
Really disappointing. I think he'd won his last 15 or something ridiculous against Simon, so no one really forecast that, and it was a really flat display. I think it was quite a comprehensive defeat. It might have been 11-4, with an absolute drubbing by Van Gerwen standards. And then the Premier League, I mean, we all backed him to kind of bounce back. He topped the Premier League phase for the last 7 years since his debut. He'd never not won the Premier League phase. So I think we all expected him to come out on top, but it just never happened for him. I think he lost overall to every single player who avoided elimination at one point or other. Obviously, Rob Cross was the one who fell by the wayside, but he lost to all the other 7 players. He was really, really under par, ended up finishing 6th. So not only did he fail to finish the league phase in the top 4, he came 6th out of 8 players, which is unheard of for Van Gerwen. But I'm not quite sure what went wrong for him, but Michael van Gerwen, we've been used to him over the last, best part of a decade now. In the big moments, that's when he produces his best darts, and that's what makes him a champion. But in the Premier League, in the big moments, he was found wanting. He wilted in big moments. He was missing match darts. At big moments, he was pulling darts. He was just a shadow of his former self, really. And I'm not going to forecast the demise of Van Gerwen. He's such a quality player. It's probably just a blip, but it's certainly something to focus on now, because the race for world number 1 is hotting up. I mentioned it earlier on. I think in terms of the money he's defending now for the rest of 2020, there's a chance if Peter Wright were to retain his world championship, Peter Wright could start 2021 as a new world number 1 for the first time in 8 years. In
Neil, Michael van Gerwen's form, merely a blip or something more serious?
I think a blip, but probably a longer blip than we've experienced for quite some time. So there's been occasions over the past 2 or 3 seasons where he's had bad results, but I think he's always bounced back fairly quickly. And this time, especially with the Premier League performances, you were kind of sitting there night after night thinking, well, it's going to turn for him, it's going to turn for him, it's going to turn from him. And it just didn't. So I think it's a blip. I think he's a fantastic player. I think his opponents may be gathering more belief that they can now beat him, which has an impact because they obviously that increases the level of their performance. And you just don't know. It only takes something to be off nowadays with so many good competitive players for you to lose. And all the things that have to come together, whether he's practicing enough, whether there's anything going on personally, I'm not saying there is, but any kind of facet of your life can impact your performance. And I think it only just needs to be a fraction off the perfection that it almost normally is, and you do have the belief now with the other players that they can step up and beat him. I think Glenn Durrant was sensational. There was a bit of needle, I think, before the game. Some comments that Michael had made, and Glenn total belief in his ability that he was gonna win that, and he did come through. So as I say, I think a combination of Michael being slightly off and the belief maybe growing, and the confidence of other players that they can beat him is probably all having an impact.
I knew you stole my thunder slightly there, because my next point to you, Josh, was going to be that for my money, the dip in MVG's form has coincided with the rise of Duzza. Ever since Duzzer's come over, and Duzzer's got a bloody good record against MVG. He's probably got the best record head-to-head against him of all the top players at the moment. And it just seems to me that ever since Duzzer's come across and started to raise a few eyebrows, that's when MVG has started to have a bit of a wobble.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the two are interlinked or not, but you're certainly right. I think out of all the top players, Glenn's record against Michael is certainly the best. They've played 6 times now. Glenn's won 4. There's been a draw and obviously 1 defeat, but that was a Pro Tour event where Michael beat Glenn the other week in the Autumn Series. So I think Glenn, as Neil mentioned, just got total belief in his ability. He knows his game inside out. I mean, Michael is a quick player. He's a rhythm player. And Glenn, there's no tactics involved with Glenn, but he's more methodical. And he's not going to change for anyone, and why should he? That impacts Michael a little bit. He mentioned before that Glenn was a boring player before their first meeting in the Premier League, which I thought was a little bit disrespectful. But I think it also showed a little bit of frailty for Michael, because he's thinking about it beforehand. He's thinking he's a bit of a slow player, whereas usually someone of Michael's ability would just be going up there thinking, I'm the better player, I'm going to win the game. So maybe Glenn has got in his head, I'm not too sure. But we also mentioned earlier, I think that the lack of an atmosphere or playing behind closed doors, I think has been a factor for Michael. We mentioned him, Gerwyn Price, even Nathan Aspinall, all players who seem to thrive off that atmosphere, that adrenaline. And yes, they've been having artificial noise pumped in, but it's not the same. And I think Michael maybe just been a little bit flat, lacked that sort of hunger and that passion, that raw emotion we often see from him was just lacking in the Premier League. So maybe that was a factor, I don't know. But the World Series finals came, there was a crowd in attendance, and what happened, he lost to Glenn Durrant, which has been a theme over the last couple of months. So terrific win for Glenn. Having said that, I think Michael averaged 102 in that game, so certainly nothing wrong with his form. It was just a high-quality game. It was a high-quality game. One player had to lose, and it was Michael on this occasion.
Neil, a question I wanted to ask you is Michael van Gerwen a victim of his own success? And are we, as the darting public, do we expect too much from Michael these days?
I think he is a victim of his own success, because I'm sure if you looked at if some of the other players had the season that Michael's had, they'd be very, very happy with what he's achieved. So yes, he is. Do we expect too much? Maybe. How long can you keep producing the goods at such a high level and winning the tournaments that he has for so long? Phil Taylor did it for a long time. Michael's done it for a long time.
And there's plenty of other examples outside of darts. I look at elite sportsmen, people like Tiger Woods, who won so many competitions, Neil, but it can't last forever, can it?
No, Tiger's a great example and very similar to darts, the level of competition is far more, during Woods's terrific years at the top was far more competitive than maybe it was when Jack Nicklaus was playing. Michael's in that very competitive environment and still managing to do with it. Eventually it caught up with Tiger. That fell down because he started things in his personal life started to unravel, and then he got injuries. So as I say, it can just be one thing, one little facet that changes within your life, and it can impact. But it must be so mentally demanding to stay at the top for so long and to try and perform at that level for so long. So I'm sure it's a dip. I'm sure he will be back winning regularly again, but you never know.
And Josh, Neil mentions, personal issues there outside. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and to be honest, it's none of our business. But as you mentioned earlier, when Raymond van Barneveld famously suffered a few, problems at home, and all of a sudden his form dipped, and it can happen. It can happen to all of us in our professional lives.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there are any issues with Michael. I know they've recently had their second child, so obviously become a father for the second time. It's natural. You want to be with your family. And I think that's why he really enjoyed the lockdown, because he was able to spend so much time with them and see his children grow up. It's a demanding circuit. It's a grueling circuit. So for him to have that time with them, it must be tough to be constantly going away from home and missing seeing his children grow up. So I don't think it's an issue in terms of personal issues. I just think it's, as Neil mentioned, the strength in depth now within the sport it's an all-time high, I think. Also, the consistency in Michael's game is not quite there. He still had some terrific results and performances this year. Just remember the UK Open back in March. He won it with an average of over 105 for the tournament. He was, from the last 16 onwards, he was like a machine. Some of the best darts he's thrown in years. So he still won a couple of titles at the Summer Series. He won a title at the Autumn Series. So there's no demise. I just think the standard is now growing, and maybe he won't dominate to the same level he has over the last 6-7 years. But listen, he's not going to go anywhere. He's still the world number one. I still think he will be the world number one for a couple more years yet. But maybe we won't see the same level of dominance. It might be that monopoly. It might be a bit more evenly shared out the tournaments, which I think can only be a good thing, really, for the sport. Yeah,
absolutely. And Josh, as you mentioned, he failed to make the Premier League playoffs in August. Let's move it on to the Premier League then, the semi-final lineup. The finals night is due to take place on October the 22nd. Give us a roundup.
Well, it resumed after 6 nights in Milton Keynes. We had 10 nights crammed in the space of around about 14 days. And Glenn Durrant started the league phase, or the resumed league phase, top of the league, and that's where he ended it, becoming just the third player after Michael van Gerwen and Phil Taylor to finish top of the Premier League. So to do that in your debut year is an amazing achievement. So massive congratulations to Glenn Durrant. Peter Wright, I think he was a big winner, really, apart from Glenn, after the resumption. I think he was the best player over the course of the couple of weeks in Milton Keynes. Hit a 9-darter against Daryl Gurney, threw some brilliant darts, beat Michael van Gerwen, beat Gary Anderson. Yeah, played some great stuff over the course of that period. He came second. Gary Anderson finishing up in 4th place. Gary was second for large periods, and I think Gary really benefited as well from playing back-to-back. Gary's a rhythm player, and I think he wasn't in great form at the match play despite reaching the final, but he seemed to improve as the tournament went on, and he came in 4th. And we saw Nathan Aspinall, another debutant this year, had a really, really consistent Premier League, finishing in 3rd spot. So we'll be seeing Glenn Durrant taking on Gary Anderson in one semi-final, and the other one will see Peter Wright taking on Nathan Aspinall. So it's a great lineup, really. Despite no Michael van Gerwen, we've got the current world champion, the 2-time Premier League winner, and 2 debutants. So really fascinating to see. It was meant to be at the O2 on October the 22nd. I think after the latest government restrictions in terms of crowds returning to venues, I can't see that happening myself. But I'm sure we'll have an update soon over where and when it will be held. But nonetheless, it should be really exciting conclusion to what's been a great tournament.
Neil, credit to the PDC for managing to get the Premier League back underway and have hopefully played to some sort of conclusion on October the 22nd. What did you make of the consecutive nights of darts? I think to the football, the end of the football season, when getting that completed, I'm sure you were in your absolute element with the football, because there seemed to be football on the television 24/7. How did you feel about so much darts on television?
I enjoyed it, to be honest, because there was always something in the evenings when you're looking for something to do. There was always something to watch. I've got a feeling, did it coincide with the international break in football as well?
I think you're right,
or the start of the season. All I remember is several nights I was thinking, I'm glad I've got the darts to watch. So full credit to the PDC. I thought they were brilliant during the lockdown with their darts at home. And I think, again, they've been very active in trying to get things up and running again. Let's be honest, we all want things to go back to normal as fast as possible. In the absence of that, we want to try and carry on life as near to normal as possible, and they're making every effort to make that happen. So fair play to them.
Josh, how much do you think the absence of a crowd for those Premier League nights affected the final outcome?
I think it had a detrimental impact on some of the players. I think Michael van Gerwen mentioned he's one who seems to relish the atmosphere, and whether it was a question of form or not, but it certainly didn't help him, did it? When you look at his results, Gerwyn Price, he was a little bit inconsistent. He had some great results. He beat Michael van Gerwen and Peter Wright back to back, playing some great stuff. But then he just seemed to capitulate in certain games. I think Neil mentioned his headspace wasn't quite right during that period. And Gerwyn is someone who relishes the atmosphere. And as we mentioned, crowds are back for the World Series finals and he picks up another title. So, but I think all the Premier League players are used to playing on the big stage. They all enjoy the atmosphere, really. So I don't think it benefited anyone. There's no players in that Premier League you would say are floor players and can't play on the stage, because if they couldn't, they wouldn't be in the Premier League. But I do think the consecutive nights certainly helped certain players, the likes of Gary Anderson. Peter Wright played himself into some great form. And I think it hindered Michael van Gerwen because he has had a few issues with form, but usually the Premier League is a weekly thing. So if he'd have had issues with his form, he could have gone home, potentially worked on those flaws in his throw or whatever, and then gone back the following Thursday and rectified them. He had no time. One night he was losing to, I don't know, Gary Anderson, and the next night he's playing Peter Wright. He's got to turn it around instantly. He just couldn't quite do that. So I think the consecutive nights certainly didn't help Michael van Gerwen. But I really enjoyed it because sometimes the Premier League, I've always enjoyed the Premier League, but sometimes towards the latter stages it can seem to drag on a little bit because there's certain players who are out of contention, and it's obviously 16 weeks and you're seeing the similar sort of players playing week in, week out. So I think having that consecutive nights of action, it made it more of a tournament feel. And I really enjoyed it. So I don't expect it to happen next year. Hopefully, if the virus is under control, we might be able to go back to the normal with fans in attendance and on a weekly basis on a Thursday night. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it certainly added something to the event.
Neil, something that was certainly negatively affected by the lack of the crowd for me was the challengers concept. Without that crowd there, we can wax lyrical about some of the challengers walk-ons that we've seen in their hometowns, and unfortunately you and I are not fans of the challengers format. That's no surprise to anyone listening to this podcast, but unfortunately the challengers format was not as good as it was first time round due to the lack of noise.
No, and I think the whole thing about the challengers is they handpick them for the venues that they're going to be playing at. So the atmosphere that we've seen with the likes of John Henderson in Scotland weren't there. So, and I feel a bit sorry for the challengers in a way because it's a good opportunity for them. But yeah, I definitely think it kind of took the edge off the atmospheric conditions that you get in these venues.
Josh, you've been a proponent of the Challengers format for a couple of years now. Neil and myself, not so much. Where do you stand on it at the moment? Are you still in favour of it for next year, or is it time for a change?
Depends if Barney gets a
Good point.
Yeah, I'm glad
Josh.
you got there first, Neil. But no, I agree with you both. I thought it really did hamper the Challengers. I think Chris Dobie was obviously first up against Daryl Gurney. He was really under par. But for Jermaine Wattimena and Jeffrey Deswan, they were coming into it. And obviously Peter Wright and Gerwyn Price, their opponents, had already played a couple of games by then. So they were into the swing of it. And you're essentially going to play in a behind closed doors arena with no atmosphere and no real incentive. I know there was a small prize fund if you were to get a result, which none of them did. But a large appeal that the Challengers format is to play in front of your home crowd to get your night in the spotlight. So the motivation and the incentive wasn't there. The atmosphere wasn't there. I think it was very hard for the Challengers really to perform, and none of them did really. We saw Chris Dobie get beaten 7-2, but he was well below par, averaging the 70s. Deswan has had some injury issues in the last few months, and he didn't perform against Peter Wright. He lost 7-1, and then we saw Jermaine Wattimena lose 7-0 to Gerwyn Price. So they won 3 legs over the 3 nights, and having just come off the back of Luke Humphries becoming the first challenger to win, we saw Bunting draw a cross before the Premier League was halted. So they just built up some momentum, and then suddenly it sort of petered out. And I think it all depends really on how many players are in form for the Premier League next year. I mean, Dimitri van den Berg, the winner of the match play, for me, he's got to be in the Premier League next year. I think if there are 10 players who are good enough, who the PDC believe can compete week in, week out, then I think now could be the right time to change it and go back to the original 10-player format, because I felt, particularly in the behind closed doors format, the Challenger game was always the weak link, really. I think it was always a game where I wasn't particularly interested in the outcome. Whereas in previous Premier League or previous Premier League nights when the crowd's been in attendance, I've always been really excited to see how they get on. But it just didn't work. But the PDC weren't to know that there was going to be a pandemic and this would be impacted like this. But yeah, it just didn't work. And I felt for all of the Challengers, really.
I might have to refresh my proposal in the new year, Josh, and see if I can get Barry to listen to me again. On the back of my suggestion last year.
You have to go for more retweets and likes than you got last time. You got quite a big response though, didn't you?
He did get a big response. And maybe we'll follow that up again at the end of the Worlds. Okay, Josh, any other darting action that we want to touch on before we move on?
Not really. I think we're going to talk about the European Tour in the odds section with Neil. So I think that's all for now, John.
Excellent stuff. That is your darting roundup.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshisdartistry.com for the latest news and insight to the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329. Leave us a message and we may play it on air. Now back to the show.
This is Martin Adams, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, welcome back. As we mentioned at the top of the show, you managed to catch a few moments with Damon Heta.
Yeah, it was great to chat to Damon. Johnny's in very good spirits, as you can imagine, after his success at the Autumn Series. He's had a good first year in the PDC so far. Also got his Grand Slam debut to look forward to now. So he was full of the joys of, well, I say spring, of autumn.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Well, guys, I'm delighted here to be joined by former Brisbane Darts Masters winner Damon Heta. Damon, many thanks for joining me.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Happy to answer some questions.
Brilliant. It's been a busy few weeks for you, Damon, in Germany and Austria for the Autumn Series and then the World Series finals, but a very successful few weeks for yourself. So you must be really pleased with how it went over there.
Yeah, stoked, mate. It's, in that lockdown period, it's everything I'm working towards, and I just want to keep climbing them ranks. So the more tournaments and more money ranking you get, the more tournaments you're in, and I just hope to smash them all.
Definitely, and it was your second PDC title you picked up in Germany at the Autumn Series, but your first ranking title, so that must mean a lot to you. Yeah,
for sure. Winning one of those, it's like, you're coming through the whole field, so to do that rather than how I won the Brisbane, I only had 4 games. I mean, I know that, the best players in the world in winning it that way, but it just meant, it meant that I'm heading in the right direction to what I want to achieve. So
you did it the hard way in Brisbane. You mentioned there some of the players you beat, but you didn't have it easy either at the Autumn Series, and you beat Michael van Gerwen en route to the title. So that must be an achievement you're very proud of.
Oh, for sure, especially when he's beaten me probably the last 4 or 5 times. So, to get that win, I just went in with heaps of confidence that game. I knew I've had chances against him before, and I just felt comfortable that day. And I just took all my chances the whole day.
And overall, in the Autumn Series Order of Merit, you finished 4th, which is an amazing achievement when you think the 3 players above you were the 3 top players in the world in Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright and Michael van Gerwen. But the added bonus was you also got a Grand Slam spot because those 3 I mentioned are already qualified into the Grand Slam. So you must be really looking forward to making your debut later this year. Yeah,
for sure. How that came about, I'm real stoked. Just to obviously miss the summer series that I couldn't make, and to come through on the autumn series and do really well and make the Grand Slam. I'm setting out these little goals and I'm achieving them. And so if I can just keep making all these majors and climb up the ranks pretty fast, that's what I'm looking to do.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind 18 months for you, really. Before your success in Brisbane last year, that sort of kicked it off. But before winning that title, were you considering qualifying school as an option, or was it winning that really made you think, I'm going to give this a go?
No, it was the World Series the year before, is when I already said that I was going to give the darts my full attention. Obviously winning the Brisbane Masters, that was a bonus, so to say, towards what I wanted to do, because it was like I said, it's about 18 months to 2 years in planning. Yeah. For obviously coming from Australia, and I've still got like a mortgage back home and stuff like that, so it makes it hard. So I had to plan for these things and save and work and just really work really hard. And and then I'm here now, and I just want to make it all worthwhile. You know what I mean? not going to leave any stone unturned.
Absolutely. And have you surprised yourself even slightly by what you've achieved in the last 18 months? Like I say, winning the World Series title, getting a tour card in such great fashion, and then winning a PDC ranking title in your first few months as a tour card holder.
Yeah, probably not like a big surprise. Obviously, I've accomplished a bit. Like I said, with these little goals, I had little goals back in Australia, so I never done the circuit, so I set that little goal and I knew what I can do, and I knew I was going to win it. So the first year I played, I ended up topping the DPA circuit, so that got me to the Worlds, which got me to Q2. It's just all these things that I've set out that I've just done, so it's not really a big surprise that I haven't done, doing well on the PD circuit, because that's where I believe I can be one of the best, and that's what I'm going to keep on doing, keep giving it my full 100% attention. It's
been a very strange and difficult 2020, really, with the coronavirus pandemic. I'm sure when you won your tour card in January, you didn't expect to have a year like this, but how did the initial lockdown affect you? Because you had moved over to England, and I believe you moved back to Australia for a few months afterwards, didn't you? Yeah, it made it. It was like I came here and I just had like a whirlwind of a little darting holiday, so to say, and then going back home, not knowing when I am going to come back. I practiced I practiced a lot. I was like, as soon as I can get back, I'm coming back, and that was all I kept thinking, and I'm just going to do like great things. So I was really hungry. I mean, I know there was nothing, it was out of my hands, and there was nothing I could do. And to miss those 5 events, it just hurt a little bit, but it probably made me more hungry to perform well. And I did. So, I mean, and the lockdown wasn't too bad in Australia, as I did my quarantining. And the thing was, I just took that opportunity. I went straight back to work as well, to keep that financials ticking over, because, I'm still working towards that goal of staying and playing darts as long as I can. And if I don't have to worry about financial issues as much, then I will make it easy on me and less pressure. Have your family moved over with you to England? Because we know you're very good friends with Carl Anderson, and Carl's spoken quite openly about how tough he's found it living sort of away from his family. So has your family moved over with you, or is it just yourself in England at the moment? Yeah, so I've got my wife with me. I would not be here if she wasn't on board. I don't know how I would survive. But if she never came, then I probably wouldn't even come myself. But I'm stoked. I've got her with me, that support. I mean, I know what Kyle went through, having just been by himself, never alone, having a kid as well. That must have been excruciating. But I've got that support. And I'm just all guns blazing. Definitely. And we know Carl has obviously remained in Australia over the last couple of months whilst you've returned back. Do you know if he's got any plans to return this year? I'm not too sure. He's, I think he's going through some health issues, and obviously his family, I'm pretty sure he's enjoying that time for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's probably a question for him, I'd say. I'm not too sure where his mind's at the moment, but I'm pretty sure he's always going to be in love with the game and wanting to play darts, so you can't rule out that he's just given up. And just going back now to the World Series finals last weekend, obviously you beat Ian White in the opening round and then played well against Peter Wright, but came up a little bit short. But having played in the darts at home and then so many Pro Tour events, obviously without any crowd behind closed doors, how good was it to perform in front of a crowd again? Oh, yeah, that was insane. Not only that, playing against people in person was another thing as well, because I didn't play against anyone in person for months, and it was, so even that was a bit of a, you just get but it was like getting back on a bike. You get back on, you start riding, and it all feels really good. That first, I think I just put a lot of pressure on myself for the World Series on stage. I just went out expecting to perform really well, and when it didn't, some things didn't go my way and I didn't take some chances, I just put that pressure on myself, and that's probably why it never happened. But I did come out in the second half against Peter. I feel that I played better and more comfortable, but by then, when you're 3-4-1 down or whatever, it's a bit hard to come back from the world champion, I guess. No, of course. But we know you're going to be at the Grand Slam of Darts this year, the World Championships as well, presuming that goes ahead as planned. You could also potentially be in the World Cup of Darts, depending on Carl's situation. But have you set yourself any targets for the remainder of 2020? Yeah, I'm just going to go out and give, treat every game on its own.
I'm not looking forward in the draws, who's in where and where. I'm just going to make sure I concentrate on my own game and one game at a time. And I'm just going to leave. Like, I'm not going to throw chances away. Like, I'm always just going to keep fighting and just give it my best. And that's pretty much all I can do.
And you've made huge strides in the last 18 months. How far do you believe you can go in the PDC? Is it a case of the sky's the limit for you?
Yeah, for sure. I've beaten the world's best, so I can't see why I can't go on and win like majors and be an involved name where I'll climb that ranks quickly and I'll be one of those known players who's in every tournament and the one to watch out for. You know what I mean? If I can, as soon as I get, I've already got my first ranking title out the way, so I'm just going to keep bringing on more, and people think twice playing against me, thinking they've got an easy run.
Well, it's been a pleasure watching you so far, Damon, and we wish you all the very best for the remainder of the year and beyond. So thanks for joining us, Damon.
Yeah, cheers, Josh. Thanks, mate.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Well, there you go, folks. That is Josh's interview with Damon Heta. Josh, completely upbeat, Damon. That's what I like about Damon. He's always in a good mood. He's always got a smile on his face. Time for a laugh and a joke. And he really believes in himself, and he's capable of challenging for major honours.
And who can blame him, really, John, when you think he won the Brisbane Darts Masters last year and beaten 4 top players en route to the title. So he's got that big stage pedigree now. On a ranking title in the PDC, beating the world number 1 en route. So who's to say he can't go on and have more success? He's still only 33 years old. He's a relative newcomer in professional terms. So, all good luck to him. And he could be representing Australia at the World Cup this year if Carl Anderson doesn't return. So it could be a really good couple of months for Damon now.
Yeah, great decision to decide to compete in Q School this year, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I imagine that his decision was prompted by winning the Brisbane Darts Masters, but he said it was actually speaking to Gary Anderson the year before that convinced him to go to Q School. But living in Australia, having his family and his work over there, it took a lot of time to put plans into place to get himself ready to move over here. So it was a big commitment, but it paid off, and hopefully he'll continue to reap the rewards. Well,
good luck to Damon for the rest of the year. We look forward to seeing how you get on. And Damon, you are always welcome on the Josh's Dartistry podcast.
This is Dan Dawson, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, gentlemen, it's now time to get some odds.
Cool. What are the odds?
Let me hand you over to a resident odds checker, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you, John. So I think it'll be an interesting look at the odds this time, and maybe the first time that we see the bookies feeling a little bit more confident about offering odds on Michael van Gerwen. So odds brought to us by Sporting Bet. This episode, we start with this weekend's German Darts Championship. Michael van Gerwen, 5-2 favourite. When was the last time that we saw him at such long odds?
Yeah, normally tighter than that, isn't it?
Well, I think he's generally, I think other than the last episode we did, he's always been close to odds on to win even the biggest tournament. So 5-2. So a little bit of evidence there from the bookies that they're feeling slightly more comfortable, that it's more of an open field than normal. Gerwyn Price, second favourite at 4-1. Peter Wright, world champion, 5-1. Glenn Durrant, 6-1. Glenn Durrant, 8-1. Nathan Aspinall, 9-1. And then Christoph Ratajski, 14-1. If you want an outsider, Josh, who would you pick?
I'd pick a man who's just beaten Jeffrey Deswan now, Devon Peterson.
Devon Peterson, you could have got at 66-1.
Wow.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. So, interesting for the German Darts Championship. As I say, we're starting to see some movement in Van Gerwen's price.
Neil, someone else who I'm sure isn't destined to forever be the bridesmaid. Talk to me about Smith. What odds is Smith for the tournament?
Michael Smith. Now, for someone with a lot of talent, 28-1 seems like a big price.
Wow.
To me.
Good value.
So
it's got to happen someday.
Yeah, and even looking, I mean, we've got proven Premier League players and world champion Rob Cross, 25-1. Daryl Gurney, improved after the break in the Premier League, 33-1. And your favourite, John James Wade,
Come on, James.
33-1.
Come on, James.
Some big prices. The familiar figures still fancied. Although Van Gerwen not as much as normal.
Okay, Neil, what else have you got for us?
So let's look forward to the World Championships. let's pray that we can get some fans into the arena, because I think it's quite a spectacle. Having experienced it so many times, we know how good it is to be there and how good the atmosphere is.
Josh, is it definitely taking place at Ali Pali? Is that signed, sealed, and delivered?
It's not signed, sealed, and delivered at the moment. It's still due to take place at Ali Pali, but obviously the latest announcement in terms of the government, I'm not too sure how that'll impact things. But I think watch this space is all I can say.
If you couldn't have crowds by the time Christmas comes along, is there an argument for the PDC not to hire Ali Pali and save a bit of money and have it in a smaller venue like we've seen in Milton Keynes or something like that? Possibly,
but I suspect there's a long-term contract, which means that it's being paid for. So whether they would save money by not appearing there, I don't know. But it's the impact on the income as a result of not having supporters. We think about ticket prices, but then you think about the amount of drink that gets consumed and that. So everybody kind of loses out. So I know we're 3 months away, but let's hope that we don't go down that road, and it is at least at Ali Pali and supported as much as it possibly can.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's have some odds then. Go on in.
Okay, so 2021 World Championship outright odds. Again, Michael van Gerwen is at 5-2. So they're not predicting much change in his form between now and the World Championships. Well, reigning world champion Peter Wright is actually second favourite at 4-1. I quite fancy Peter, if I'm honest. Gerwyn Price 8-1. Gary Anderson quite an attractive 12-1. So we know that when Gary gets on a good run at the World Championships, he can deliver, being a double world champion himself. Mr. Consistent Glenn Durrant 14-1. Nathan Aspinall, young, talented, already won a major in his first Premier League semi-finals, 14-1. And Michael Smith, 18-1. Former world champion Rob Cross, 25-1. So I'll ask you both for an outsider that you might fancy, and then I'll just have a quick look to see how they're priced.
Well, first and foremost, you mentioned Glenn Durrant there at 14-1. I think that's an absolutely sensational price at this stage of the year to back someone who's banging form and is capable of beating absolutely anybody. So
yeah, I'd agree. I think what you get with Glenn is, you're going to get a certain level of performance week in, game out. He's consistent and he's a great finisher. So it is a good price, I think.
And somebody whose name has been mentioned on this show for a couple of years now. I remember Josh first mentioning this guy to me in episode 1, and we've slowly seen him rise up the ranks and nick the odd win on tour here and there, and really start to establish himself. Krzysztof Ratajski on that list there, they're at 33-1. I think he's one to watch over the next 18 months. I really do.
Yep, highly rated player, wins under his belt, very dangerous opponent. So, you get some decent odds on Krzysztof, as you say, at 33s. Josh, anyone else you fancy as an outsider?
Well, I'd say it's tough to. I was going to say Krzysztof. Maybe the world match play champion Dimitri Van den Berg. He's already won a major this year.
Yep. Same price for Dimitri, 33-1. We've seen how he's developing as each year goes by. I suspect his odds will be a lot shorter in future years, but 33-1 this year, quite an attractive price.
Definitely.
Neil, interesting to note on the list that you've provided us with as well from Sporting Bet, a couple of the ladies' names on there, both Mikuru Suzuki and of course Fallon Sherrock on there at 500-1. Josh, when will we know about the female qualifiers? Were they how's that going to be decided this year?
Well, we've got the women's series, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, which will be held in October. So for the first time ever, the PDC are having women-only events. So there will be places up for grabs, qualification places up for grabs in those events. So the likes of Lisa Ashton, Fallon Sherrock, Mikuru Suzuki, and all the other top female players will have the chance to win their place at the World Championship in those events.
It's a massive price for Fallon, isn't it? 500-1.
Well, listen, it's I think
it's a massive arse, though. Really, I mean, Fallon was amazing.
No, it is, but 500-1. When you consider that she's already competed on that stage, already had big victories on that stage, I think that's a massive price.
Well, I'm surprised she's the same price. I'd certainly have her shorter than Mikuru Suzuki, that's for sure.
That surprised me, that one. Especially when you see some players that she's beaten on that stage, lesser odds. So I think she beat Ted Everts, didn't she? 250 to 1.
And Mensah as well.
80 to 1. So,
and drawn with Glenn Durrant in the Premier League.
Yeah. So I think it's. I agree. It's a big ask, and I agree it's probably not going to happen. But I do think 500 to 1 is a huge price for someone as talented as Fallon.
Okay. Anything else for us, Neil?
No, that's all for this episode.
Okay, they are your odds. If you've got a few quid burning a hole in your pocket, hopefully Neil's given you an idea there of where to put it. As always on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, we do remind you to gamble responsibly. And of course, when the fun stops, stop.
Cool, what are the odds?
Listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for Challenge Josh. Challenge Josh. Yeah, that's right. It's time for another instalment of Challenge Josh, an opportunity for myself and Neil to embarrass our resident darts experts, Josh Gorton. Let's hand you over to resident quizmaster, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thanks, John. And as I said earlier, thank you for your efforts in compiling this episode's Challenge Josh.
My pleasure.
I know I had a good few chuckles as I as I read through the questions, and I'm sure you enjoyed compiling.
Just look at the Zoom chat for a second, Neil. Look at his little face. Look at his little face, all nervous. Look.
Yeah, makes me even more determined.
Have you got a pen and pad, Josh? You normally, when we're recording at my house, you normally got a pen and a pad to hand, so you can do some.
I haven't, but I've got Microsoft Word.
You got Microsoft Word. Okay, good. Technology helping us out.
It might have Google then.
Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't thought of that.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah,
I hadn't thought of that. Challenge Josh across Zoom. Right, you're banned from Google. All right, we can't ask you.
Fair enough.
Can't ask you to turn your Wi-Fi off because we'll lose your connection. But you're banned from using your computer. Okay.
My phone's out the way. Don't worry.
Good. Okay, Neil, over to you, buddy.
Okay, so this episode's Challenge Josh is darting partners.
Oh,
partners.
Darting partners. What do you think?
My word.
What do you think that's all about, Josh?
Well, I'd imagine, unless it's a World Cup of darts pairs, you're talking about darting wags.
Darting wags. You are correct. It's all about darting wags.
Oh, that's horrible.
Okay, Neil, without further ado, let's have question number 1.
Current PDC World Champion, Snakebite, Peter Wright. He's become known for his colourful Mohican hairstyle and extravagant clothing. His hair takes 2 hours to complete and is done by his wife. What is her name?
Joanne Wright.
That is, of course, correct. Joanne Wright. Yeah, she does a hell of a job on his barnet, doesn't she? She always puts the snake on the back of his head, and she certainly contributes to Peter Wright's performance every time he steps out onto the stage, Josh.
Absolutely, yeah. She's a fundamental part of the snakebite image, so fair play to her.
Okay, 1 out of 1. Neil, let's move it on to question number 2.
Which dart player's wife's maiden name was Govers?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Which darts player's wife's maiden name was Govers? So I don't want the player, I want the wife.
Daphne, so Michael van Gerwen's wife.
Yep, Daphne van Gerwen is the correct answer. Her maiden name was Govers. How are we spelling that? Pronouncing that?
I reckon it's Govers.
Govers?
Yeah.
I think it's Goevers. I think. I'm not too sure.
Oh, so Govers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 out of 2. One on Josh. Neil, let's have question number 3.
Born in 1987 and aged 33 years, Who did Sarah Podmore marry in a fairy tale wedding in 2012 at Peckforton Castle, Cheshire?
Adrian Lewis.
No debate about that one, Neil. He was straight in there, Adrian Lewis.
I thought we had him for a minute, but it's a bit too easy.
Yeah,
I didn't know the answer, but he obviously did.
They will get harder, I promise you. Okay, let's have question number 4.
Which darts player split from his wife of 23 years in 2014 with a judge ordering him to hand over 5 properties, all his pensions, and 830,000 in the divorce settlement as part of the divorce settlement?
Phil Taylor.
Again, straight in there. Phil Taylor is the correct answer. Josh, do you know Phil Taylor's ex-wife's name? Do you remember her first name?
Yvonne, is it?
Yeah, it is Yvonne. It is Yvonne. Neil, imagine that. All your pensions, 830 grand and 5 different properties.
Yeah.
There we go.
You got me worried now.
That's what you call it in the jackpot. Yes, your missus listening, Neil.
No, she doesn't want to be.
Okay, before we get you in trouble, let's move it on to question number 5.
On the 8th of August 2015, you know who got married?
What do you mean 8th of...
That's very vague, Neil. That's really vague.
That can't be the bloody question.
No, it's not the question.
Excuse me. On the 8th of August, so you don't know who got married on the 8th of August 2015. I will tell you who got married on the 8th of August 2015.
Okay.
James Wade married model Sammy Marsh, who had worked previously for the PDC and accompanied James on his walk-on. What's her job nowadays?
She did manager.
That is correct. Just for a moment there, Neil, I thought he was stumped. There was a bit of a pause.
He seems to, And then he seems to look like he's got no chance of getting it, and then comes out with the answer. Disappointing.
Yeah, Sammy is now James Wade's manager. Okay, that is 5 out of 5. Let's move on to question number 6.
Prior to dating March in 2013, James Wade dated which other sports TV personality between 2008 and 2010?
Helen Chamberlain.
Yeah, again, straight in. Helen Chamberlain, of course, former host of Sky's Soccer AM. Quite a highly publicised relationship that was, Josh, a couple of years ago.
It was, I remember seeing Helen in attendance at a few events as well, yeah.
Do you ever watch Soccer AM nowadays?
I don't, to be honest. I must admit, I did enjoy it in the previous days of Tim Lovejoy and Helen Chamberlain. Yeah,
I watch it nowadays. I think it's still got its.
I don't think they can
got its value.
I don't think they can get away with half the stuff they used to.
No, probably not.
It's still entertaining. I suppose it's changed, but so's the world. I suppose since that. Modern.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 out of 6. It's a good start, Neil. Hopefully, some of these questions will trip him up. Otherwise, I'm going to be really disappointed. I've made it too easy. Okay, let's have question number 7.
2012 Grand Slam semi-finalist Dean Winstanley is famously married to BDO competitor Lorraine Winstanley.
Mm-hmm.
How many BDO world titles does Lorraine hold?
Oh, hello.
How many BDO world titles?
Yes.
Hello.
World championships.
World titles, world championships. Yeah.
Well, she's won the World Masters, but she hasn't won the World Champ. Are you talking about World Championships?
Okay,
Neil, could you repeat the question for us, please, just to make it a bit clearer to Josh? I don't know how much clearer you could possibly make it, but just repeat the question, please.
So Dean Winstanley married to BDO competitor Lorraine Winstanley. How many BDO World Championship titles does Lorraine hold?
I feel like there's a trick question in here. She got to the final in 2019. Well, she's won no World Championships, so none.
Your final answer is none.
She's won the World Masters. That's not a World Championship.
What is your final answer?
None.
Jesus Christ. It's like trying to get blood out of a stone. Yes, it is 0. Josh, you said she got to the final in what year?
2019.
See, my research took me up. It was probably before that because I've got it down as our best result being the semi-final loss to Dieter Hedman in 2012.
No,
but I've
do you
obviously,
not remember? You had a bet, John.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I forgot about that while I was looking on Wikipedia.
Josh, I got a question for you. How many times can you subtract 5 from 25?
Oh God.
Oh, it's giving me an headache now, Neil. Pass.
No, come on.
5.
John?
Well, if I wanted to be funny, I'd say an infinite amount of times.
You can only subtract 5 from 25 once. Because once you've subtracted 5, the next number is 20. Okay? Got that from TalkSport earlier. And the only reason I was listening, Jamie O'Hara was asked the question, what's the lowest score you can get with one single dart? And he said 20.
Yeah, I think that's Jamie. I think that's Jamie O'Hara's IQ, if I'm honest. And
oh, John.
Probably most of the people. Probably most of the people on TalkSport. Moving on. No,
you've been on there before, so yeah.
No, hang on. Right. Didn't Josh used to work for TalkSport? Didn't you? Didn't you? You were their runner once, weren't you?
I didn't.
So you're validating the point even more.
I had 2 weeks work experience. I wouldn't quite call that working for them.
When you Alan Brazil's runner, didn't you have to go and get his bacon sandwiches and his coffee every morning?
No, I was a researcher. I was doing a bit of the script writing. It was quite enjoyable. Good lad, Alan Brazil.
Right, enough of this nonsense. That is 7 out of 7, and we haven't tripped him up yet. I don't think we're going to trip him up with question number 8, but we'll try nonetheless. Here we go with question number 8.
Yeah, probably not. Which darting legend's ex-wife is called Sylvia?
Oh, Raymond van Barneveld.
Yep, that is correct. I put ex-wife. I don't know if they're officially divorced or not yet, Josh, but I'm assuming that if they're not already,
I think they might be. Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. Question number 9. Right, a bit of a long one. This you need to pay attention and concentrate, Josh. I'll give you a heads up. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Question number 9. Here we go.
The following is from a news article from December 2011.
Okay.
Paul Nicholson crashed out of the World Darts Championship last night, then blamed his opponent's girlfriend for the defeat. The 32-year-old, who plays up to be in the so-called bad boy of darts, took the opening set. However, he ended up losing 4-1 and claimed he was distracted by all the attention his opponent's other half was getting from the crowd. Nicholson said, "There's a reason why I lost that game, and she's right there." Nicholson told Dan Dawson, "If she wasn't in that crowd, I swear to God, I would have won that game. They were more interested in his girlfriend than the match." Television cameras picked out Dartistry Hagen on several occasions throughout the game, which prompted wolf whistling from some fans at the Alexandra Palace. Who was Paul Nicholson's opponent that night?
Kim Huybrechts.
Yeah, very famous game. I remember watching that live, and it has to be said the cameras on more than one occasion did cut to Kim Huybrechts' partner at the time, and caused quite a stir in the crowd. Josh.
Yes, I must admit it was quite comical. I mean, good job you didn't get to the final because best of 13 sets. Blimey, should have been on there for about 2 hours.
But I remember the interview with Nicholson afterwards, and he didn't say it tongue-in-cheek. He was genuinely annoyed about the amount of coverage that she was getting, and it affected him on the hockey, Josh.
It must be frustrating, though. If you're trying to throw in every 20 seconds you've got wolf whistles, it must be irritating.
Okay, Neil, we haven't tripped him up yet. Let's move on to question number 10.
Which legendary darts player, who sadly passed away in 2018, left behind an ex-wife named Jane, who he divorced in 2005?
Eric Bristow.
Yeah, the crafty Cockney, Eric Bristow. Before he married Jane, I was just doing some research. He was in a relationship with another darts player, female darts player.
Maureen Flowers?
Maureen Flowers, that's it. I don't think they married, but they certainly had a relationship. Yeah, Jane was his ex-wife, dear old Eric, who left us in 2018. Well, that's 10 out of 10. Neil, he is 66% correct so far, and we've only got 5 questions left.
Yep. I think this next one's going to be interesting.
Oh, dear.
I did leave a few bombs at the end.
Oh, thank you, John. You're giving me some right stuff now.
I was just following Neil's normal style. Okay, let's move it on then to question number 11.
Darts Players' Wives was a 2005 documentary featuring the likes of Rachel Baxter, who is the wife of Ronnie Baxter, and Chrissy Manley, wife of One Dart Peter Manley. On what channel did the show first broadcast?
Surely not a reputable one.
Oh, Josh, hang on a minute.
Josh!
Oh, dear.
Wow!
Hang on a minute. Hang on.
Edit.
Do you remember watching the documentary, Josh? You ever seen it? Darts Players' Wives, it was called, in 2005. It was a TV documentary.
I was 9 years old, John. Why
Yeah,
was
but I was
watching darts then. Never mind Darts Players' Wives.
I was 1 when Spurs won the FA Cup final in 1981, but I've still seen it.
No, I must admit, I haven't caught it actually, John. So,
I'd highly recommend it. It's good fun. But you don't know what channel it first aired on in 2005, no?
Sorry, was you 11 the last time Spurs won a major trophy?
Who, me?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
No, I was...
1991.
No, we won the League Cup in 2000 and...
I said major trophy.
Oh, so it's a major trophy when Liverpool win it, but not when Spurs
we'll
win
see.
it.
If we win it this year, it will be.
Anyway, we won the Audi Cup the previous year, so that's a major. If Josh can have the Community Shield, I'm having the Audi Cup. Right, anyway, listen, back to the question. What channel did that documentary originally air on in 2005?
I'm gonna have a guess. It'll be either something like ITV4 or Sky One. It's that sort of program, I think.
Gonna have to hurry you.
Sky One.
I don't believe it. That is correct.
Oh, yeah. How did I think?
The thing that annoys me, we have to go through all that nonsense and all that sort of play acting,
I know.
and then he goes, "Oh, I think it's Sky One."
Let's go to question number 12. Here we go.
I'll be if he gets this, I'm giving up. Which former world champion's wife has the Twitter handle @Fordy180 and a bio that reads "Lucky Mummy to my adorable son Ty and Princess Shaylee"?
Gary Anderson.
That is correct. I've made these far too easy. Yeah, question 12. The answer is Gary Anderson, Fordy180. Rachel Ford, I believe, is his wife, Josh, yeah?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, well done. 12 out of 12. I've only got 3 questions left to try and trip you up. Let's see if we can do it.
You'll be sacked next time, John, I think.
This is what happens, Neil, when
he
you're...
gets a full house.
This is what happens when I'm left to my own devices. Okay, here we go. Question 13.
Which darts player's partner has managed one appearance at the Lakeside Country Club for the BDO World Darts Championship, where he lost the first round match in 2005 to the Wizard, Simon Whitlock? So I am looking for the name of the current darts player whose partner appeared in 2005 and lost to Simon Whitlock.
So we're not looking for the name of the person who lost to Simon Whitlock. We're looking for the name of their partner.
I don't have a clue about it either, so...
Interesting.
It's an obvious one that I'm trying to think of.
Neil, I think he's under genuine pressure for question 13.
I don't have a clue about this. Only one appearance.
One appearance. I am going to have to rush you, although I could just drop that in.
I'm trying to think of... Oh, my mind's gone blank. Dieter Hedman, I don't know.
We finally got him, Neil. We finally got him I'm over the moon. I wouldn't have slept tonight if I'd have let him get 15 out of 15. Neil, give him the answer.
Well, that's the huge sigh of relief. It's Anastasia
Dobromoslova, whose husband is Tony Martin, who lost in 2005 to Simon Whitlock at the BDO Worlds at the Lakeside, Josh.
I could have got that, to be fair, because I know Tony plays a lot of soft tip now, but yeah, my mind just went blank. I couldn't think of female darts player who I was presuming it would be, so you caught me out on that one.
Well, I'm over the moon. My job here is done, and it's been a great show. Thank you, and good night. No, we've got 2 more questions left. Let's see if Josh can get question number 14.
I'll be even more over the moon if he doesn't. Paula Jacklin is an English darts player who competes in the BDO and is married to chairman Des Jacklin. How many times has Paula been knocked out in the BDO World Championships first round?
Ooh. She's lost every... I'm not... No disrespect to Paul. I think she's lost first round every time.
No disrespect.
No. It's just a case of how many. I know she made her debut in 2015. I remember that. I just can't remember if she's been in it every single year since.
How many times has Paula been knocked out of the BDO World Championships in the first round?
5 or 6. It's got to be 5.
We're not going to tell you.
5.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Pulls it out the bag again. 5 is correct. I'm quite impressed with Paula for carrying on. It's quite disheartening getting knocked out first round every time, bless her.
She just enjoys it, to be fair. I mean, fair play. She's had some success in floor tournaments, but when it comes to the Worlds, it's just not really happened for her yet. But there we go.
Okay, let's have the final question, Neil. This is question number 15.
Darts commentator and former player Wayne Mardle has 3 loves in his life: darts, his wife, and his dog. Can you name both his wife and his dog?
His wife is called Donna, and his dog is called Sherlock.
That is correct. Great knowledge, Josh. Yeah, wife Donna and dog Sherlock. Although he does post a lot of pictures and go on about Sherlock on Twitter quite a lot, probably more than he does about his wife, actually. But yeah, Sherlock is a very beloved family pet of Wayne's, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think he's also going to have another dog coming soon. I think called Watson. I think I've seen on his Twitter. I think he's picking him up in a week or 2. So yeah, another addition to the Mardle family.
Okay, well, there we go. On darting partners, Josh, you got 14 out of 15. Just the one wrong. How'd you feel?
I'm very happy with that, because when I heard the category, I was wincing not only at how I performed, but also some of the questions I'd be asked. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
Neil, I managed to fox him on one, so I'm quite pleased.
Yeah, but I'm going to find time to do next month. So.
I hope you're hammering hard next month, because
I will do.
Just one wrong is far too easy. You're much
but
better.
Good fun. Good fun.
Absolutely. That was this episode's Challenge Josh. Challenge Josh.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshsdartistry.com for all the latest news and insight into the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329 and leave us a message, and we may play it live on air. Now back to the show.
Okay, boys, let's get some news. In the news. Okay, then, yeah, Josh, you've got a few news items that you want to discuss with the listeners. First up, I think the Players' Championship you wanted to have a chat about.
Yeah, the Players' Championship final is due to be held in November at Butlins Minehead. John, unfortunately, that will now be staged behind closed doors. It won't be held at Minehead, unfortunately. We don't have a confirmed venue yet, whether it will be Milton Keynes or Coventry, which is being used for the Grand Prix. We don't know yet. But no fans in Butlins, which is a shame, because that's always a really popular event with players and fans as well who are in attendance throughout the weekend. So we hope that we can get fans back as soon as possible before the World Championship.
Neil, obviously a shame for the fans, but I think the players are probably getting a bit used to it now, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think, as a player, you need to be able to motivate yourself to play at the highest level you possibly can, week in, week out, regardless of conditions and regardless of opponent. So we've just got to get on with it, and it is what it is at the moment.
Okay, Josh, bring us some news regarding the European Tour.
Well, as we've mentioned earlier in the show, we've got the German Darts Championship taking place in Hildesheim as we speak. And earlier in the week, we saw 2 more European Tour events confirmed for October. We'll have the European Darts Grand Prix in Sindelfingen from October the 16th to the 18th. And then 1 week later in Riesa, we'll have the International Darts Open. Both of those events will be held with fans, as is this weekend in Hildesheim. So it's good to see fans back on the European Tour.
It must be quite difficult for the PDC to be juggling these events. Obviously, there's different rules that are currently in place in different countries. Josh, you talked there about the Players' Championship finals being behind closed doors, but the European Tour events in October being with fans. It's a difficult juggling act for the PDC.
Absolutely. I mean, different countries have got different rules, as you mentioned, but I think all the players are delighted to be back playing in front of some audiences. It's not quite the same. It's probably not as raucous. Hopefully they're having to adhere to strict social distancing guidelines with these events, but it's great for the players to have the atmosphere, and it's great for the fans to be able to be back in venues again.
Josh, next on the list, Sky Sports favourite Dave Clark competed his latest March for a Cure charity walk, didn't he?
He did, yeah. As we mentioned, well, I don't think we have been on a podcast since Dave announced.
No, probably not.
At Sky. I mean, what a wonderful servant he's been to Sky Sports. A fantastic bloke, first and foremost, but a brilliant host as well. And to come through what he has done and still be at the top of his game, really, in broadcasting terms, is testament to the person he is. But he's still going strong with his March for a Cure charity walk. He did a 6-day trek across Hadrian's Wall earlier this month, and he raised over £37,000 for Parkinson's UK. So tremendous work from Dave.
Yeah, Neil, even though he's stepped away from presenting the darts, it looks like nothing's going to stop Dave from marching on and raising as much for his charity as possible.
No, absolutely, and I followed it on Twitter. Dave was posting updates, and you've just got to admire the man and his determination. And he's missed at the darts as well, so I don't think it's the same when you switch on nowadays and he's not there. So, great guy.
Josh, bring us some news about a couple of players, Harry Ward and Jamie Lewis.
Well, Harry Ward, he's relatively new to the darting scene. He won a PDC Tour Card last year, won a Pro Tour event. He's one of the kind of upcoming stars of the game, really, and a really popular lad with the players and fans alike. But he announced a couple of weeks ago now he'll be relinquishing his tour card at the end of the year. I think throughout the lockdown, I think he realised he didn't really have the hunger or the desire to be a professional darts player. He said he didn't get the buzz out of winning anymore, and I think he just wants a normal sort of life. So he's going to be handing in his tour card next year, and he won't be a professional darts player anymore. Of course, he can still return, but that's well, I say it's disappointing news. Harry said it's not disappointing news. He's happy with the decision, and I think it shows quite a great deal of maturity, really, to make that decision at quite a young age. So fair play to Harry. And we've also got Jamie Lewis, as we know, a former World Championship semi-finalist a couple of years ago now. He also announced to be stepping away temporarily from the game, just taking a bit of a break. He's not stepping away full time. He put on Twitter that he was getting himself into some terrible habits, and I think he's just not really enjoying the game. He's not in a particularly great place at the moment. So we wish Jamie all the best and hope to see him back on the hockey as soon as possible.
Yeah, Neil, it is unfortunate for these players if their heart's not in it and they want to take a break. But they can always try their luck and come back at a later stage if their heart's back in it.
Yeah, and I think that's important that they do what's right for them. And if that means taking a permanent step away from the game to go and pursue different opportunities. Good luck to Harry. And with Jamie, as Josh said, World Championship semi-finalist, very, very good player. Let's hope he won't be away for too long. I think there's a lot more pressure. There's so much more scrutiny. We've spoken before about social media and the impact that has on not only darts players but all sportsmen. So they need to do what they need to do to look after themselves. And as soon as they are ready or not ready to return, then that's their choice and hopefully the right thing for them.
Yeah, we wish Harry and Jamie all the very best, and hopefully we'll see them back on the hockey in the not too distant future. Josh, we've spoken before about the success of the PDC Home Tour. Phase 2 of the Home Tour 2 continues on Tuesday the 29th of September. Yeah,
the Home Tour 2 got underway early this month, really, in between after the Premier League, and it's in between the European Tour events and the World Series finals events. We've seen some big players in action, just couple of days ago now, we saw Christopher Tashke, Stephen Bunton and Kim Harbrechts all come through their respective groups. So some high-quality darts on show. So when the European Tour concludes over the weekend, we'll see the home tour taking place again later this week. So non-stop darts for you all to watch.
And just remind us how we can watch the home tour, Josh.
You can go watch it if you sign up to pdc.tv, John.
And finally, Josh, you've got BDO news for us.
Yeah, we always seem to be, unfortunately, covering quite negative BDO news, certainly over the last few months. And earlier this month, we were told that the BDO is set to announce its intention to fold after the United Kingdom Darts Association confirmed that all counties will now play under the UKDA banner. Now, we mentioned on the last podcast, I believe, that BDO Enterprises, the commercial arm of the BDO, they filed for liquidation in May. And that kind of marked the end of the road for all the tournaments like the World Championship, the World Trophy, leaving just the county and youth systems. And although Des Jacklin confirmed that the BDO would still battle on, I think now they're kind of coming to the realisation that the BDO is set to fold and will be no more. So, yes, disappointing news, but we've still got the WDF, the World Darts Federation. Obviously, I think we mentioned about the MAD darts, Modern Amateur Darts, which is being introduced by Steve Brown, who runs the JDC. So there are different avenues now being available for amateur darts, but the BDO could well be no more very soon.
Neil, that's terrible news, really. In my opinion, I think we've always thought that the writing might be on the wall for a few years now, but I don't think many of us thought it might actually happen. But it seems that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's very, very sad. Whenever a traditional organisation like the BDO have the struggles that they've had, and ultimately it looks like it may be the end. I always felt that despite the problems that they'd had, that it would just be an ongoing thing. And I'd hoped eventually to see things improve, but looks like it's not to be. So, yeah, very sad news.
Yeah, sad news indeed. We'll keep our eye on the UKDA. Hopefully the amateur game can thrive under that banner. Josh, any more news for us?
No, that's all for this episode, John.
News. This is Devin Peterson, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, we are almost at the end of the show, but you've been sending in your questions to us, and we'll do our best to answer them. This is Josh's Twitter chatter. Yes, that's right. It is Josh's Twitter chatter. Josh, you put out the feelers on social media yesterday when you let everybody know that we'd be recording a podcast this evening. We've had quite a few questions come in, some with more than one question. I'll start us off. Juanita McDade on Twitter at Just Too Serious has got a few for us. Question one: if there was a Rookie of the Year, who do you think that would be, in your opinion? Josh, Rookie of the Year. What are you thinking?
I presume players who won their tour card this year. There's been a few standouts. Damon Heta is one who we spoke to earlier on, but maybe Dirk van Duijvenbode. He came through European Q School, having lost his tour card. And he's had a really solid start to 2020, got to a couple of semi-finals on the Pro Tour, got to a European Tour quarter-final. So probably Dirk for consistency, but obviously Damon has won a Pro Tour event. So probably those two stick out for me.
Neil, any other rookies off the top of your head that you think have done quite well this year?
I think we'll go for Damon Heta.
Yeah, topical.
Recent win.
Been on the show today.
Yep. So I'll go for Damon.
Okay. Juanita also asks, who of the new tour card holders do you think would reach the top 64 or close to it?
There's certainly a few. There's also one player I've negated actually from the list of Rookie of the Year, and that's Jeff Smith, who got to a final I think on the first weekend. Completely forgot about Jeff. So Jeff's certainly one, I think, former Lakeside finalist. He'll be one that can rise up the ranks as well. Scott Waits is another one, two-time BDO champion. Also, there's one who's really impressive, Martin Kleermaker, a Dutchman, who's not had many consistent runs, but he's had some terrific performances. He was highly rated in the BDO system. I think Martin's got a lot of the attributes to be a success in the PDC. So there'd be the three I pick out.
Okay, and on the flip side, who do you think will lose their tour card this year?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's a tough one because we don't really know what's going to happen with the PDC Order of Merit at the moment.
No.
Because I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. You don't really want to predict anyone to lose their.
No, not really. It's a bit harsh.
There are a few in a bit of peril at the moment, but no, I don't want to answer that. Really, there's Martin Schindler. He's possibly one who is struggling a little bit for form. Martin has struggled a bit. Of course,
someone we've spoken about very favourably in the past. I think Martin.
Definitely, I think he's still young enough, Martin, to get his game back, but his averages have certainly not been particularly impressive in his performances. If the World Cup goes ahead this year, which it looks like it will do, for the first time in a couple of years, it'll be Max Hopp and Gabriel Clemens instead of Martin Schindler this year. So, yeah, he's one. There's a few who are lingering above that top 64, but it only takes one good tournament to turn it all around. So, it's tough to say, really.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think Harry Ward is going to lose his tour card this year.
That's a brave shout, isn't it?
You
I
know
should have
me.
said that.
You know me. Okay, let's move it on. Friend of the show, Ben Hudd. You can follow them on Twitter at BenOnSport. He's got a couple of questions for us. First of all, who reaches the World Youth Championship final on Monday, Josh?
That is another tough one. One of my favourite players is certainly Keane Barry, very young Irishman who's impressed in terms of the BDO World Youth System. He's been very good on the development tour this year. I wanted to see him in the Premier League as a challenger, really, this year. He's one I really rate, so I think he'd be up there. There's so many other contenders, though. I mean, yeah, I think Keane's the one who I'm going to back to go all the way. He's my dark horse.
I just hope that whoever does win it doesn't get the pelters that the World Youth Champion seems to pick up every year. You know, I can think of a few examples of people who've won that competition in the last couple of years and just got abused for winning it. You know, the comments like, "Oh, they've been playing on tour for ages and they're playing in the final against a nobody and they should win it." Yeah,
Luke Humphries got that last year. He beat Adam Gorlas, who was a very young Czech star, and Dimitri Van Berg's got it in the past. He's won 2 of those world titles, but you only have to look at the progress Dimitri's made now at senior level, winning the major title, and Luke is rising up. He's got to 2 World Championship quarterfinals senior events, so it's certainly a very good platform for him to build on. So, yeah, I think they're doing great work in terms of the PDC with the World Youth System.
Ben, second question. What do you make of the World Seniors proposal from Paul Nicholson? I read this article yesterday. Paul making a proposal for a World Seniors competition. A lot of the comments he was making about it was, he was saying it would need to be taken seriously, but the first thing to consider would be where to fit it in the calendar. Obviously, with the Worlds taking place in December for the best part of a month, and then January largely taken up by Q School qualifying or players having a well-deserved break, it would be difficult to find somewhere in an 11-month period to slot that particular competition. But Paul's saying that he feels that there is an appetite there for it, Josh, and he'd love to see it happen if it could be done.
I totally agree. I read the article as well with Paul, and I think it's a terrific idea. I think the players would love it, kind of rolling back the years and resuming some great rivalries, and I think the fans would love it as well to see the likes of. I know we talked about Barney coming back. The likes of Raymond van Barneveld, Phil Taylor. We could have Martin Adams. The likes of Ted Hankey, John Part. We could even see like Wayne Mardle, Peter Manley coming back, Keith Stella, John Lowe. There are so many great names that we could see back on the hockey. I think it would be a great idea. Dennis Priestley's another one. I'd be in favour of it. It's just whether it's viable in terms of the calendar. But most of the players who'd be competing would not be on the PDC circuit. So it should be manageable. I think it would be a terrific idea.
All those players that you mentioned there, Josh, I think they'd also be great names for the challengers in the Premier League, in my opinion.
You should put that on Twitter, John. See the response you get.
Neil, if they televised a World Seniors World Championship or competition of some sort, was that something that you'd be interested in watching?
Yeah, I don't see why not. We see the seniors in golf, and you see some really good quality play. I think the struggle will be for those darts players that are currently on the tour. Who would qualify as seniors, how they would balance that with the regular tour. But yeah, why not? I think it'd be interesting.
Okay, well, we'll see if a World Seniors competition comes to fruition. Last question on Twitter, Josh. Woody, at Woody Rudd, says, hope all is well. It's been too long. Yes, it has. Apologies. This is more of a discussion point, really. Surely Barney has to come back and just enjoy it with no expectations. If he expects to win tournaments, and I'm not saying that he can't win, he could end up disappointed and fed up with darts again. Josh, your thoughts on that?
I kind of agree and disagree. I think it's important for him not to be too downbeat, and I think he has to enjoy it again. I think if he enjoys it and kind of relishes the challenge as such, that will get more out of him. But he's a 5-time world champion. He's a winner. He's used to winning. I don't think he would come back just to be content with getting to the last 32 of a tournament or the last 16. He'll want to be competitive. I don't think he'll want to come back and just make up the numbers. So for him, he'll want to win and he'll want to be competitive. But I think if he does enjoy it, that is when he'll play his best darts. So it's about finding that balance.
Neil, do you think he's got a right to be competitive upon his return, or is that being a little bit too hopeful?
No, I think he will be competitive. I think the key for him is managing disappointment and managing his own expectations. If he's had sufficient time away now where, as I said earlier on in the show, he can put things in perspective and just be happy to be back out there and be playing, then we might see a decent run of form from him. If we see the same character that's extremely hard on himself when things aren't going his way, then I'm not convinced that we'll see much from him at all. So I think a lot of it is really depending on how his temperament is and mentally how he returns to the game.
Yeah, well, I think I speak for all of us when I say that I hope that we can see Barney return in the new year and happy and healthy and smiling, enjoying his darts again and doing what he does best, putting on a real show on the Oki. That's all we can hope for, I guess. Josh, any more questions from social media on your side?
No, that's all for this episode, John.
Thank you, Josh. That is Josh's Twitter chatter. Okay, well, there you go, folks. A podcast that normally sets out to last about an hour and a half, and we're already well over, but it's great to get around the table, Josh, and chat it out.
Absolutely. It's been too long, as I think our last question said, but yeah, really enjoyable tonight. So many points to discuss. We're getting towards the business end of the season now, so hopefully we'll get round the table a little bit more regularly now to focus on many tournaments to come. Yeah,
Neil, as Josh says, there's loads coming up, isn't there? Loads for us to watch, loads for us to talk about, commentate on, speculate about, and hopefully we can all get around the table in the not too distant future and do another show.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hope that there's no further interruptions to any of the schedule. Going forward with the recent change in circumstances in terms of the UK situation and COVID-19. So fingers crossed. I think we've got some great darts to look forward to and hopefully some great darts to discuss in future shows.
Yeah, well, as ever, thanks to you, the listener, for checking us out. As I've mentioned at the top of the show, please do share, retweet, let people know about the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Thanks for your time. Gentlemen, thanks for your time as well. Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure, mate.
Neil, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Josh's Dartistry.